Hello, all you cats and kittens. Welcome to ADD Masterminds. I'm Bridge Levoit, and I'm here with
The girl. I
the
represent all
girl,
of us, ladies.
all of the ladies.
Every single one.
I speak for all of womankind.
Yes, it's me.
I
I'm the
just,
problem. It's me.
I just speak for bridge kind.
Okay. We speak for all the bridges.
All the bridges. Oh wow.
All
I
right.
I actually remember when I went to this like camp and I met this guy who's like super not my kind of person, but he was like
Okay.
super spiritual and like he was good at praying and stuff. And I told him, I feel like my calling is to be a bridge. And he looks at me, he's like, young man, sometimes bridges get walked on. And
Ooh,
yeah, I'm feeling that today. I'm very excited about therapy today because I
good.
need it. I've been
Yes.
walked on a lot really lately. So
Okay.
um
Go get your holes patched, go get some asphalt resurfacing. Just to loop back for a second, do you think there are people who are bad at praying or just he was particularly good at praying?
He's just like it was like a charismatic thing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting. Like it's like I mean, we could talk about like the Asbury thing that's going on without getting I don't think we have to get political, but I'm like it's kind of interesting to me because like it doesn't really matter where you stand theologically. I think you've got like a bunch of
Okay.
kids at a college. I don't know if you're familiar with what's going on there, but there's like a college
Okay.
where there's supposedly this revival and all these people
Oh.
have different opinions on it, and it's been kind of interesting to see people from different like spectrums of
Huh.
like theology go
Yeah,
to
I'm
this
I'm
because
I'm
they're like, I'm
familiar.
gonna
I'm
check
still off
this
of the
out.
Twitters. Okay.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's mainly I guess I mean like Twitter isn't real life. I remember somebody saying Twitter isn't real life. I'm like, I'm still in Twitter.
I
We're
bring it into my real life all the time. I make bad decisions. So that's why I've just gotta stay off it. I don't know anything that's going on and it's awesome.
but outside of Twitter, I mean,
Yes.
it is a Bible college.
Okay.
And they're probably on like hour 100 of, or last I checked, anyways, it was like 100 hours of just like worship and prayer and
Oh
reading the
wow.
Bible. And, the people are trying to evaluate whether it's a actual revival or not. And I just, you know, I kind of watch something like that. And I'm like, just let the kids do that, man.
Yeah.
Like, let's
I
see
don't
where
know why
this
we need
goes.
to see if it's legit and like categorize it. It's if they're being revived, it's a revival. How many people does it take? How long does it have to last? How are we deciding that it's a revival or not? Like,
I don't
are
know.
there
Yeah, that was,
specifics on that? Are there metrics we can
yeah.
check?
And I saw someone talking about that. It's like,
Okay.
and I'm like, yeah,
Huh.
that's the joke right there. It's like, well,
Yeah.
how many days sustained? But I'm
Honestly,
just
if
like, look, like, just let the kids have as much Holy Spirit as they want.
mm,
I think
mm,
I can say that without getting like
I
super
think so.
controversial theologically.
I think you're all right there.
Yeah.
I'll have to
I
check that out.
remember like I used to like play bass at church on the worship team.
Mhm.
And we were kind of like this church that was working at becoming like one of those big city churches with
Okay.
the smoke and light show and everything. We didn't
Mm,
have smoke, but we had really cool lights
okay.
and video
Oh.
of us worshiping, right? And those were put in ads for the church and stuff,
Oh,
right? So it
okay.
was
Big
kind of a
time.
big deal.
Yeah.
But I remember we did like practice and then we were doing pre-service prayer, and one of the older gentlemen, he says, you guys sound really good today. And I said, can't argue with that. I just thought that was a funny response.
I like that.
Just start
Like, yeah,
saying
we
that when
know.
people compliment you.
Can't argue with that. All right. I like that because it's
you
a
see,
little funnier than I know. So, you can kind of get away with it being cocky.
yeah, it's cocky but funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's called
All right.
confidence. Actually, it's really interesting to me how like confidence and humility kind of walk hand in hand.
Mm,
Like it's like you need a certain level of confidence before you can actually have humility.
okay. Yeah. All right.
Like if you're always looking for um if I'm always looking for somebody to give me encouragement because I don't have enough confidence,
Right.
it's very hard to be humble. But if you're
Okay.
satisfied with your level of confidence, then
You're secure enough to be humble. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
All
it's
right.
quite
I
the
like that.
paradox because it's like, well, I don't need anything from any of you, which now I need to say that humbly. It's crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you can just spend your whole life trying to understand what humility is.
I mean, for that matter, I'm listening more than reading, but listening through all four gospels every month
Uh-huh.
since January 1st. It's been really cool. Jesus was really cocky in places, like
Yeah.
the way they spoke to people and the way that, the people that he would speak to and the ways that he was kind of like sarcastic and sassy and the like,
Yeah.
okay, if you can't answer, I'm not going to answer you either.
Yeah.
Yet he's 100% also the picture of humility and laying himself down for others in service. So like those two things go hand in hand and aren't necessarily contradictory, that you can totally be absolutely confident but fully humble as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a great
Yeah.
mystery.
Oh yeah.
And so it's fun to try to understand it.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you ever like get emails from people and they reply with like cheers? Like, or they
Yes.
send you an email and they end it with cheers?
Yes.
Yeah.
I get a couple of those.
I
And I
always like,
always assume they're like, cheers, like
yeah.
the clink with the glasses. But I'm now I'm going to see it as like, are they like, yay? Like, can they be just cheering me on or
Oh,
something?
that's
I'm
interesting.
going to interpret it that way instead.
I always think cling when I hear
The clink. Yeah.
cheers, cling. It's like
Clink.
they're
Yeah.
drinking at the office, I guess. Um, or warm regards.
Warmest regards. Best
Yeah.
wishes. Yeah.
I want like smoking hot regards.
Like not warm. Well, I can't even touch them. White hot regards.
White hot regards. You
I like
can't
that.
handle these regards. They're so hot.
Get your of gloves ready. Yeah. We're just like, oh, man, something funny popped in my head and now it's already gone. But just, yeah. Warmest
How
regards. It was
ADD of
something.
you.
Right. Exactly. It's perfect.
Sloppy wet regards.
Sloppy. That's so gross. Unforeseen regards if you're more conservative.
Unforeseen regards.
We sing unforeseen,
Yeah.
and I don't actually like that. I don't like sloppy wet either, but I'm like, that's the way it's written. That's the way I want to sing it.
I kind of loved, like, I think it was Jesse Carey with it
Yeah.
was like unforeseen kiss. That's like
Yeah.
without consent. I'm like, ooh, well,
Oh, that's right. That's a
wow,
good point.
dang.
He's a smart dude. He is funny, but when he goes, he is a smart dude.
I would love to interview him.
I would love to I'll just listen. Like I would kill to be part of it, but I'll take like you can mute me and I'll just like freak out the whole time. But
I think there's just like people that are like my interview crushes. I'm like, I'd
oh
love to
sure.
interview that person. I want to pick their brain. Yeah.
Just want to talk to you for a bit.
Yeah. Um, it's interesting though. Like I like there's some figure that's like fiercely political, so I won't mention the person's name.
Okay.
But I used to be such a huge fan of his work. And
Okay.
I remember he said like something brilliant he said at one time was like, there are things that are like solid truths, like
Mhm.
gravity, the law of
Sure.
gravity, or the earth being round, not to get political. Um and then he's like, there are other things that are like more difficult to distinguish, and they're truths that are just kind of like dreamlike realities where it's like, okay, well, spiritual entities and stuff like that, we
Mhm.
cannot just like solidly say like this is the facts, these are the facts
Okay.
about it, right?
Yeah.
And he said that like for those dreamlike realities, it is vital that the arts illustrate those things. And I
Okay.
was like, that's so beautiful. And I
Huh.
remember at that point, I was like, I would really like to interview this dude. And
I
then
like that.
things really changed. And I think it's just like he really got attacked. And I
Mm.
think it changed the type of person he was, is like he
Okay.
was continuously attacked by one political entity,
Hmm.
which kind of forced him into a position where he started defending the other political entity. And now
Okay.
everything he does is just reactionary. And I'm like, there's no brilliance to what he does anymore. And it's really
Okay.
sad. But I'm like, there was a time when that would have been my interview crush. And now I'm like, no,
No, now it's over.
it's too bad.
The time has passed.
You ever notice like some people's like singing voice is like completely different from their talking voice?
Yes. And it drives me crazy. There's this stupid show. I don't know if Canada has it, but I Can See Your Voice, in which these
Oh,
people sometimes they speak, but they lip sync to either their own voice or a recording like studio artist's voice. And
oh,
you have to tell if they can actually sing in real life. But like
oh,
most of the
interesting.
time when they're like, I'm a chef and I blah, 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 I can't tell if the voices match. I have no idea. I don't know if it's going to end up with an accent. Like people that I speak to and I'm like, oh, you can probably sing. Never. So I'm just bad at it, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that's
Continue.
interesting. Yeah, because like how whether you can tell somebody can sing based on their talking voice.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's people who think that, or maybe there's certain people that can tell, but for the most part, I just expect everybody should be able to carry a tune at least a little bit. So when I hear
Hmm.
someone that can, I'm like, oh,
Oh.
why don't you sound weird when you speak? Like you have control over your tone and pitch when you're speaking. Why doesn't that carry over?
I remember watching the film Crossroads when it came out, and I
Okay,
don't know why I was watching it,
sure.
but there's a point where she does karaoke
Yeah.
and she sang in her normal singing voice. And I was like, if I was like a music artist and I was doing a movie where I had to do karaoke, I would
Yeah.
sing way off key and I think it'd be hilarious.
It would be so funny.
Oh, Jewel. You know Jewel, the
Yes. Yeah.
artist.
Yeah.
She said that she, when she does sound check, I don't know if she always does this, but she sings off key during sound check. And she's like, just a quarter note or something like that. Anyways,
Yeah.
she got all technical about it, but she's just like, I just
Just
sing
a
off
little
key.
off,
And
just
she's
for
like, so
fun.
I had these people who like won some kind of a like
Oh
they get to
no.
sneak into sound check.
Yeah.
And
And they're
she's like,
like,
yeah. So these people are just like they swear that I use
mistakes were
auto
made.
tune.
She was
And I'm
on
like, I have so much respect for Jewel now. I just think that's
I
so
like
funny.
that. And that's hard to be able to maintain just a little half tone below. But she was on a similar show, same network. She was on The Masked Singer and she was unbelievable. She doesn't
Yeah.
sound like those first couple of albums that she made. She sounds
Hmm.
completely different. You
Huh.
know, there's a couple of artists that they got given a sound like we want you to sound this way, but their natural singing voice is entirely different. It's really weird.
Huh. All right. So
Yeah.
another one without
Okay.
getting political. Can we talk about Madonna's face for a minute?
What is going on with her face? I actually
Yeah.
know enough about this one.
Okay. You know what's funny?
I
Because
don't
I've
even know
been
what's
watching
going
like
on.
on TikTok for a while.
Okay.
Um, every once in a while, like Madonna would pop up, and it's like she got extensive plastic surgery
Yeah.
to look younger. Um, and when people watch the Grammys, um, I guess they didn't know that she got this
Hmm.
done. And so it was like
Okay.
a shock to them. And so
Yeah.
there were all kinds of opinions about her face.
Okay.
Um, and just kind of like, well, you didn't have to do this. You could have just aged gracefully and all this stuff.
Mhm.
And it's just kind of what think is so funny about this is that it's like, change your face back, Madonna.
Right. What is she going to do about it now? Nothing. If she tried to undo it, it would be worse. It will get worse. I mean,
uh,
it's bad work, but it's
yeah.
her face. You gotta,
Yeah.
do what you gotta do, but it's
Yeah, well, and I
weird.
think, it's funny because I've for the longest time I've been like age gracefully, team age gracefully. Let's stop
Sure.
placing expectations on people on how they should age.
Hmm.
And there's this lady on Twitter, Heathen Queen,
Okay.
who was talking about like how like she's a Christian. No.
Mhm.
She was like, but
I'm just
she
gonna
was,
go for it. Just like, sure,
yeah,
why
sure.
not?
I'm a heathen Christian. No. She said that she gets Botox injections regularly. And
Mhm.
she's like, and it's because I do video content and I like how my face looks better
Okay.
when it's um I don't know, whatever Botox does.
Right.
And I remember like thinking about it, I'm like, who am I to judge that? Like,
Mm,
why do I always assume like people should age gracefully?
okay.
Why would I care that a person is dyeing their hair to look
Right.
younger than they are? Um, and I guess it got me thinking too about this whole like, I know what's best for other people
Mm,
and how like I think that when I know what's best for other people, I'm not taking the time to understand them.
okay. Yeah.
And so it's like, and I think that's kind of the trick with the big E word, empathy,
Hmm.
is that if I know what's best for people, other people, it's very challenging to be empathetic because my empathy will only go so far. Because when
Yeah.
it starts to challenge how I know what's best for other people,
Yeah.
it has to stop. Like something has to give. I either need to continue to be empathetic and maybe deconstruct my thoughts of what's best to that person,
Yeah.
or um I just decide that being empathetic doesn't matter. And
Right.
so
Mm,
yeah, and so that's a challenge. And I think it's the same thing when I start with empathy. It's like, okay, so if I'm empathetic toward my child, how far do I go with that? Because as a parent, I
right.
should know what's best for them, right?
Right. Yeah.
And if I take the empathy too far, it's inevitable that if you let empathy be your guiding principle, that you just let that person have full autonomy. Like I understand how you feel,
Right.
and I can't override that if
Yeah.
I'm just going to be full on empathetic. So I mean, like with a
Mm,
2-year-old, just being full on empathetic is useless. Like you're just
sure.
like, oh, okay, I'm gonna cry and kick and scream with you.
Right. Right. Right.
Um,
Huh.
but it's like as people get older, how much autonomy do you give them? You know, like do you still keep that
Yeah.
thought that you know what's best for them? And I mean, with Madonna, she's I think in her 60s now, so
Probably.
I I will allow her full autonomy.
I let her do what she needs to do to her face.
Yeah.
But yeah, I work at a daycare. Some of these kids, I can't let them do whatever they want to their face because they'd be covered in cheese.
Yeah. I it's funny. There's a proverb I think about a lot. Totally separate topic, but it talks about the good old days and how it's not wise.
It's not wise to say such things.
Yeah, that
Hmm.
like things were better in the good old days,
Yeah.
and I think it's like it's having that knowledge that times change,
Yeah.
and I really have always believed that like with each generation, like we exchange vices for virtues and virtues for vices.
Mm,
And so like things will change and it's like it's going to be better and it's going to be worse. Like each
right.
generation is going to make things better and worse. There's
Yeah.
not a single time in history where we had everything right.
Oh no, absolutely.
And I think it's silly to assume that we had everything right at a point in history and we need to go back. But
Yes.
I think it's also silly to say, well, where we are now is better in every way.
Right. Oh, of course. For as much as, yeah, it's the trade-off. You're absolutely right.
So, what is the deal with introverts?
I don't know. I don't know, and we don't want to talk about it. I'm such a I see like I feel like sometimes I'm an extroverted introvert
Yeah.
because like I want to be invited places. I don't want to actually go. Like the
Yeah.
idea that that amount of time leading up to like, oh, I have to actually go there and be there is awful. But once I'm there, I'm fine and I'm on and I have a good time. And then I'm exhausted for like 3 days. Like it's hard for me to want to be around people. Once I
Yeah.
am, I enjoy it. But yeah, the amount of time it takes for me to lead up to just seeing any humans, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
I get like, and I'm at a level of like emotional exhaustion just
Mm,
with everything that's going on right now.
yeah.
Um, and so like even, like I get into states where, and I actually I tweeted about this. I'm like, everything makes me sad right now. This will pass, right?
Right.
And like you get to a point where I'm just like, I'm so emotionally overwhelmed, but I don't want to talk to anyone about it. And so
Yeah.
it's like almost you just want to let it pass, even though like people are like, you should talk about it, right? Like it's
Yeah. I was telling a friend the other day and I was like, I feel like I'm on the verge of some kind of meltdown.
mm,
Like it's not that I'm just so at the end of my rope, but I can just feel that I've been just kind of like going and not processing and everything's getting like backed up in my brain. So
yeah,
at some point I
yeah,
need to just sit and cry for like
yeah,
17 minutes
yeah,
and just get everything out and just refresh and I'll be fine. Like an emotional vomit. I just need to get it out and then I'll be
yeah.
fine. Nothing's wrong. I'm just backed up. So I totally, yes, I get that as well.
Well, it's interesting too. Like I went for coffee with one of the pastors from my church,
Mhm.
and she said that like everything that you're doing right now, in your podcast and online, you think you're doing it out of anger, but you're actually doing it out of grief. And I was like, whoa.
Ooh,
And I think like when I heard that, something shifted in me where I realized anger is like huge. Like it
yeah.
takes up so much space. But once you recognize it as grief, I feel like it condenses and there's
Okay.
kind of more space within
Mm,
you emotionally.
yeah. It's a
And
little easier to
so,
sit with.
yeah, you sit with it. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm working through kind of understanding like what am I grieving and how far back does my backup of grieving go?
Ooh. Uh-huh.
And so that's kind of what I'm trying to unravel right now. And so I've
Okay.
been like journaling. That's basically what my therapist told me to do is do some
Okay.
journaling. And so I've started doing that
Good.
and it's painful and I hate it.
Mm, yeah.
Oh, the other thing I learned in therapy that was
What'd you
really
learn?
interesting is we're talking about empathy because I'm like basically my biggest thing is that like I want to know where I end and other people begin.
Mm,
I need to
yeah.
set boundaries for myself because it's
Yeah.
like I'm just getting overwhelmed. And my therapist said to me, you know that you saying you're feeling what other people are feeling, it's like actually you're imagining that you're feeling what other people are feeling. And I hated that she said that.
I hate it so much. No.
But she's totally right. None of this is real. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
that's
God. Are we actually
incredible.
really selfish that we're like, this person's actually going through this thing? And I'm such an empath that I feel it too. Are we just actually narcissistic? Like we have to make this about us. Oh my gosh. I don't want that to be true.
I don't know, but I think it like it
Oh,
what it does for me
yeah.
is I'm like, okay, well, if this is all in my imagination, I can control it. It doesn't need to be out of
Okay.
control where I'm just wrecked because my child had a bad day. Like
Okay.
honestly, okay, so this is a crazy thing that happened is like my kids were buying a video card
Okay.
um on like kind of like a Craigslist. Oh, it might have been Facebook Marketplace. Let's go with Facebook Marketplace. That's
Okay.
pretty universal.
Yeah.
Um, so they go to buy it. And I was like, okay, so one kid, I'm just not going to name the kids.
Go name the
So
child.
one kid was gonna get a new computer out of the deal. We were gonna buy this new video card, and it was gonna be a new computer
Mhm.
for one person, and the other person was gonna get the old computer.
Yeah.
And the third kid was gonna have the joy of building a computer. And so they were like, "Hey, I know you've been away because I work 7 days on, 7 days off. And it's like,
Yeah.
I know you've been away a lot. You're probably exhausted, but can we go, like, can you drive us to pick up this stuff?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want everybody to have what they want. Let's do it.
Sure.
So we go do it. They install the card and they're having problems with it. Potentially they got ripped off.
Uh,
And I'm like, oh God, I'm disappointed for the kid that was getting a new computer, disappointed for the kid that, was going to get the new computer, and
yeah.
disappointed for the kid that thought that they were going to build the computer. Like all three of them, just devastated for
Yeah.
them. And I'm so sad. Go to bed, wake up the next morning, and I'm like, I drove a lot for that.
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
disappointed too.
For me, yeah.
And I'm like, why did it take that long for me to realize how I feel?
Okay.
But it's
Oh
like, it's
wow.
interesting because it's like, I don't have to be this way because
No.
all of this is in my imagination. And it's not really useful for me to be
No.
devastated for someone else. And so
Yeah.
it's like, this is silly stuff. And so, yeah, it's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like learning those boundaries. Um, and I think, like, I don't know what my grieving and understanding my grief, what role that plays in. Like, I think it will give me more capacity
Mm.
to handle things. But it's like, yeah, I'm a very emotional person,
Yeah.
and I just get so overwhelmed and it sucks. But I also love that I'm this way.
Yeah. It's because it's not everybody. And when I meet people who aren't like that, I don't understand it. That like they aren't this deeply affected by whether it's somebody next to me or something, around the world, that I'm like, how does that not just like gut you every
Yeah.
time you hear about
Yeah.
something that's awful? I don't
Yeah.
know how to not depersonalize, but just I don't know how to make space between me and the thing. Just yeah, the empathy exhaustion, the caring way too much. I don't know how to
Well,
separate it.
and the problem too is like people not understanding it.
Yeah.
Like when people are just like, oh, and they're trying to figure out how to assign selfish motivation for what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
They're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you just think that your opinion's more important. And I'm like, this
Sure.
is not about opinion. Like, I'm
Yeah.
looking at that person and
Yeah.
they're telling me they're suffering and I'm believing them.
Yes. Yes.
You don't believe them and you continue to do the same things to that person. And
Right.
you're saying this is just a matter of opinion. I am checking out. Like, you and I can't talk
Yes.
anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's just it.
Yeah.
And
No.
I'm there with multiple relationships right now where I'm just
Mm.
like, my gosh. It was funny too because like more so on the empathetic end of things, somebody had said, like, talking about like, you have to like not believe in God to care about people, was essentially what they said.
Okay.
And then I started explaining my view of God. And they said, "Oh, well, that's all well and good, but what are you doing for justice?" And I was like, "Ooh, I don't think I can be friends with this person either." Like,
Yeah.
because I'm like, I don't want to explain all the things I'm doing to help
Right.
people.
Right.
Like, I'm like, don't like, and I'm like,
No. Yeah. The internet's just so gross.
yeah. And I mean,
Oh my God, was this in real life?
this is an ex. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so I'm like, well, I guess I don't need my ex in my life. We're
No,
good.
it's
But I'm
really
just like, I
true. You
just,
care about one thing and then it's like, well, what about these? And do you care about that? And it's like, yeah, but I'm talking about this thing right now. Like,
yeah,
no.
I'm just not interested in carrying on these relationships where people are going to question my character and
Mm,
try to force me to defend myself. I'm like, I don't want to spend my energy defending myself. I'd rather defend other people.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're going to make this about me, it's like, I'm not doing this. You can think that I'm a horrible person. I don't care. I just want life to be a little better for other people. And
Yeah.
I need to learn how to care about life being better for me. And maybe that's what therapy is for, is I
There
need
we
to
go.
start caring about life being better for me, because I
Yeah.
really live for others and it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe BetterHelp could sponsor us.
Yeah.
They sponsor everybody. BetterHelp.
Have you ever used BetterHelp?
I have signed up and gotten very close to actually using it a few
Uh-huh.
times. And then I always chicken out and just call somebody that I know instead. But I've been in therapy several times, like like not say it's not real therapy, but like in person talk therapy several times. So very, very much pro therapy.
I had a coworker that was talking about, he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, no, I attended a webinar on that." Or no, what's a webinar where you actually do it in person? And I'm like,
A
"In personar?"
conference, a person. That's good. I like that.
Oh man. All right. I think I was talking about like kind of what church should be when I wrote
Mhm.
this note, whenever I wrote it. But it's like a welcoming a welcoming community, not a hard to join club.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
It's interesting. Like I guess like maybe if we were to look to the like early church, I wonder what the qualifications were for people to join the community.
So like, because they were all home churches.
Mm,
So, or like, yeah, like the early Christian church, we'll say, was home churches because they were coming out of the temples and teaching
mm,
each other at home. So, I wonder, could you just be like, hey, it's the Sabbath. A bunch of y'all are getting together. You talking about Jesus? Can I come in here? Like, or I mean, and then they were in hiding a lot. So
yeah.
maybe it was a little bit hard, but yeah, how picky were they about who comes and sits in their pews and,
Yeah.
eats their dinners and stuff like that? I would hope that everybody was welcoming.
Yeah. Well, and I think there was something really attractive about the movement initially.
Mm,
It's just like these people are different. And I like the idea of getting back to that.
yeah,
And like it's like I'm just, this is exciting. These are people that are like thinking a bit differently about stuff.
yeah,
And it's like, and they're like, they really believe in like nonviolence and taking care of other people. And I'm like, I love that kind of movement. Oh, what's really interesting though, too, is that now I am thinking in terms of the old days were better.
they were better. And it's good to think of no,
But it's interesting, like, so like what does that look like in modern times, right? Like
yeah,
what does a contagious community look like in modern
mm,
times? Like I want to just like break bread with people
yeah,
and talk about like what's a better way of being. Like
yeah.
I just think that's so beautiful.
I mean,
It's living
church,
water.
it should be the first place if you're involved, even if you're not involved in a church, but that you think of to go, I need help with something, and
Mm,
somebody here can help me. Whether it's somebody that is looking for, we have a couple of, young single moms in our congregation that we try to come around and everything. And whether
it's
it's I
beautiful.
need diapers, whether you need
Yeah.
food, whether you need a babysitter, like we have to interact with everybody no matter what. I'm not saying we should
Yeah.
all be isolated, but like when you have a problem, I feel like community wise, it should go right to, well, there's somebody somewhere at my church that can help. There's somebody that can
Yeah.
help my family. We need to borrow a car for a week. Somebody's going to loan us a car,
Yeah.
and just that intentional community.
Known for their love.
Right.
Beautiful thing. I know somebody was asking, like, somebody on Twitter asked, actually, I think I did this as the ADD Masterminds account.
Mhm.
Um, they asked, like, if you only could have one prayer, um, for the rest of your life, what would it be? And I was just like, teach me how to love.
Mm, yeah.
I'm not sure if there's anything else. Like, because I really think that it's like God is love and I need to learn how to love.
Yeah.
And I think learning how to love involves, asking for forgiveness when I fall short of love
Yeah.
and learning how to love better. And it's just kind of this iterative process. And I love that the Apostle Paul was like, follow my example. And it seems like there's certain realms of theology where people are like, oh, don't look at me, look at Jesus.
Yes. Yes.
And it's like, it's learned helplessness at this point. It's like, we should all be able to say, follow my
Ugh.
example. Yeah.
You know, I, again, reading through the Gospels repetitively, and the amount of times that it's like, oh, this was some of John's disciples. And this was some like these people were questioning them because they were one of, John the Baptist's disciples. These were Paul's disciples. Like, and we make it very much like we shouldn't have followers. We shouldn't have
Mm,
people who are looking to them.
yeah.
But they had disciples the same way that Jesus did. Now, I don't personally want that responsibility, but
Yeah.
there's not necessarily, I mean, as long as you're not going, this is the only one, whatever, I'm not going to say you should have a spiritual guru, but to have somebody that you're kind of like, no, this is the guy that helps me filter
Mm,
the Bible and the world and how those things connect
mm,
and check it against scripture. But like, maybe they didn't have apostles, but they had their own disciples, they had their own
yeah.
learners,
Yeah.
so they weren't all just only look at Jesus. They were like, yeah, I'll help you out. Well, we'll all teach each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, I think it's vital that we try to set a good example. And I think part of setting a good example is saying, ooh, that was not a good example. I am
Right.
sorry, guys.
Yeah.
And I think if you can do that, then you can say to people, follow my example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wrote this down too. I like how I'm like, how do I segue into this? I'm just gonna say I wrote this down.
Just do it. That works.
Ooh. I guess it doesn't have to be a perfect segue every
It's
time.
okay.
Um, the only way to get people to another place is by walking with them.
Hmm. Okay. I'll take that.
I think so.
I mean,
I mean,
it's the
somebody should
you
walk with
know
them.
they'll follow their instructions. You know that they'll get where they're supposed to go. They'll get there safely. Yeah,
I think like
I like that.
like if we really want to, I guess maybe discipleship, this is where discipleship comes in. It's like
Mhm.
we need to be willing to walk with people to where they should be going, I guess, right?
Mhm.
But it's like again, it's that tension between how much empathy do I give and how much do I say I know what's best for you?
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
that is such an interesting tension. Because I
yeah.
think that's true of every relationship is that it's like how much autonomy do I give? Like how much
Yeah.
do I say to this person? I will leave you to your own devices. I mean, in a good way, like
Yeah.
your own devices. Like you do you. I trust
Yeah.
you that you're not going to do
Right. I'm
something
not going to take
totally
this over.
idiotic.
Right. But here's my advice. Here is my concern. You're now on your own, though. I think
Yeah,
that's fine.
and it's and walking with them, I think, is the most effective way
Mm,
to help them go in the way that they should go. I
yeah.
don't know. I feel like
I
this
like
is
it.
interesting because I'm like, how much do I know about where someone should go? I'm like, I mean,
Mm,
like,
okay.
honestly, like, even like with my own children, I'm like, okay, this is where you're at. And I'm like, what do we do with this? Right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
well, I don't need you to be living in my own image of what I think your life should be.
Right. Right.
I mean, I have a hunch that this is what's best.
Sure.
So I can say this is what I think is best. But
This is
it's
what
like
feels safest.
I can't make you go there.
Yeah.
Um if you want to go there, I can walk with you. That's
Mm,
what it is. If you want to go there, I can walk with you and help you get there.
okay. Just, you don't have to go by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's good. You know, it's just, no, I'm not going to tell you where to go, but I'm going to make sure that you get there safely and that you're not
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we need. That's church just needs to walk each other around and back. That's what
Yeah.
that should be.
Yeah, I think so. Because it's like everybody's got a different story. And it's like you cannot just ignore that story and then say this is where you should be.
Hmm.
Because we're in a disciple making factory and we all got to look the same.
Hmm.
It's like we've got to figure out how to walk with people. It's like a good producer. I know there's a guy. I totally forgot his name, but he like produced like Johnny Cash. There's that Johnny Cash album where he did all those acoustic
Oh,
covers, including
yeah.
Hurt.
Oh, yeah.
And but this producer said that his job is not to put his own like signature on every band.
Hmm.
It's like he wants to understand that band, and just make them sound like the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And so if
Yeah.
we're looking at from like a like spiritual perspective, it's like people are created to be a certain way. And so it's like, so how do I walk along with that person to help them be the best version of themselves?
Mm.
Um, right. While still like making sure that they're kind of pursuing a higher self and not a lower self. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of
Yeah.
it. That's what a guru should do.
That's what a guru should do. The guru to the guru.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to talk about, I guess, like the pressures of parenthood.
Okay.
That's
That's a
hard.
nice light one.
Yeah.
Light topic there.
I guess like, and that's with parenthood is like, I guess it's like learning to understand your children,
Mm.
but like at some level wanting to mold them too
Yeah.
and figuring out where to intervene and where not to.
Yeah. No, figuring them out, who they are, when they're, especially when they're young, it's hysterical as they're developing like their little personalities. And, this one loves to do this and this one finds that scary. Um, it's just their own little personalities are hysterical. But then trying to like, okay, this is funny, but like less or quiet or only at home or whatever, trying to rein in. Oh no, that's just trying to make them palatable and that's not fun. But
Well,
like trying to
that's like
yeah,
the smiles thing we talked about. I think it was last episode. Is
I
like you
think
got
so.
bullied out of your smile, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so it's like parents pre-bully their kids so they don't get bullied. And so it's like,
Yes.
ooh, I
Yeah.
just want the world to be more accepting of people,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
just let them be interesting. Can we just let
Let,
people be interesting? I would
yes,
love
let them
that.
be interesting and quirky. And,
Yeah.
if your kid secretly still, some of mine still secretly like the little baby shows they used to watch
Yeah.
and they watch it in secret, fine. I don't need you watching something, preteen that's going to teach you something stupid anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe don't tell your friends about it, but you can still like whatever you want.
Yeah.
My youngest is 8.5 and he still very much enjoys Paw Patrol. Like,
Uh-huh.
can't lie, he just mostly likes dogs. But
Yeah.
he still has toys, he still has his lookout tower, he still watches. But when it was like time to get the hats and the gloves out of the basement, it was like, hey, your Paw Patrol hats, we're gonna give them to your little friend Sammy because I'm sorry, you can't wear your Paw Patrol hat to third grade at school. Like, and he was just kind of like, all right, I get it. And like some of the kids are totally like, I don't watch this anymore. And then some of them are like, I do sometimes, or I do with my little brother, so they're all trying to front already. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But just
Well,
trying to like, you can still enjoy what you want. You just don't have to tell everybody.
well, and it's
But
funny
then
too,
we're just
because like,
teaching them to hide. So I don't know.
well, and it's like gender is
Hmm.
like that too, where it's like
Okay.
these aren't things guys do. And
Yeah.
maybe it's
Okay.
the same. I don't know. Maybe it is the same with femininity, but like with masculinity for sure. It's just like hardcore, like these are not things that guys do.
Hmm.
And I've taken to just like using the heart emoji all the time. 'Cause I'm
Okay.
like, I just want to spread love. And I
Just
think
spread a little
it's
heart.
kind of funny that it's not a masculine thing to do.
Okay.
And no one's
I
ever like said, hey, that's a little bit girly for you to do that. But I
I
do
think
it.
that gender pressure honestly is way more on dudes. We don't have a ton of that anymore,
Yeah.
unless maybe you're trying to be more of like the traditional female role or whatever. And then it's
Hmm.
like, well, you're just a bad feminist. And it's like,
Yeah.
but what if this is what I want? You know,
Yeah.
and but then you're told that you're brainwashed into thinking that you want it. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's the same
But
thing too with like Madonna's face, right? Where it's
mhm,
just kind of like, well, you've decided to do this to your face because of societal pressure. It's like,
right.
well, she might be like, well, no, I just want to look this way.
Maybe she wanted to look a way and it got botched. I doubt
Yeah,
she
it could
wanted
be.
to look the way it came out. But
Yeah,
that's
no,
again, that's on her.
yeah. And yeah, but I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I think that things would be far less complicated if we didn't tell people how to be
Mhm.
whatever they are, how to be
Okay.
old, how to be young, how to be male, how to be female, how to be
Okay.
whatever. Like, it's like,
Just a little more to each their own, you know.
yeah. Well, it's like
I
set an example. And I'm like, if we talk about like what, there is a form of masculinity
mhm,
that is very forced
yeah,
and it damages other people. I'm not going to say what it's called because that would be political, but
that
there is a form of masculinity
yes.
that is damaging to other people.
Yes.
And it's men are conditioned to be that way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so what do I do about it? Um, should I be ashamed of being a man? And I'm like, no,
No.
I'm just going to set a better example. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm like, follow my example. This is what masculinity should be.
Follow me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't care. I will fight for people's rights to be whatever. Like,
I
I'm like,
just
this is not hurting anybody. So stop being a jerk.
if
Right.
you're a dude doing something, then it's a dude thing to do. So
Sure.
who cares? Who cares? It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll leave it at that because
All
I
right.
don't want to get controversial on this.
We
Um,
never do. Never.
oh, it's a great controversy because I'm finding like really interesting that there's like art that makes people angry. Like there was
Yes.
like that MLK thing
That
that
statue
was
thing.
so bizarre. And I was
I
like, I don't know what that is, but I kind of love how angry people are about it. Like it's just funny because it's like this art hurts my head. I hate it. And I'm like, it's just kind of fun. And then there's like just outfits.
outfits.
Weird outfits that people wear. Like lately there's just been this like next level bizarreness. And I think like a lot of like fashion shows are
Uh-huh.
like wearing dumb things like super big pants or like I don't know. There's just weird stuff that you're like,
Yeah.
no one would ever wear that in real life unless it's like the Brit Music Awards. Let's
Oh,
just
sure.
say.
That's not real life.
Yeah.
That's
But
not real life.
I think that like the mentality is like we're going to show a trend. We're going to do
Mm,
something bizarre and it'll shift fashion. And then fashion
yeah.
does kind of shift a bit, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, I think academia is the same way. Like, it's like all of these
Mm,
like philosophers are just like, well, what about this? And it's
mm,
like they put an idea out there that's like, well, that's not practical at all. But I think it shifts people's thinking and does actually transform society in the long run.
mm.
I just thought that was interesting because it's
I
like,
think
well,
so.
academia is useless because it's not real world. And it's like, yeah, it's not real world, but it gets people thinking in a certain way. And I think it does shift the way things are
Yes.
thought of.
Right. And from there we hopefully make progress into something else. Everything we hold as a very solid truth was a question at some point. So,
Mm, that
man, I
is
come up with like
true.
one good line for every show. Oh, I have these brilliant moments.
I love this. This is so much fun. Okay, one more thing.
Okay.
I was just thinking about so I was thinking back to that I'm sure I was thinking of the same person, the person that had that brilliant thing about like dreamlike realities that I
Okay.
will not name.
I'm gonna need to know
The
afterwards because
name
I'm
that
not
is
sure who
not
you're
to be
talking about.
named. Um, I won't go there either. That gets political. Um,
Harry
but
Potter? Or
yeah,
really?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, yes, 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 yes,
yeah.
yes. Okay. I went directly
Henry
into just
Potter, the Henry
Henry.
Potter. When I was a young adult, and when Harry Potter came out, and I was like in Walmart, I'm like, I heard the kids are really into the Henry Potter. Now I'm old enough to be that out of touch. I kind of love it.
Yes, I don't know who anybody is. I don't know what anything is. We didn't watch any Grammys because I don't know. And I'm much younger than well, much, but I'm younger than my husband, and he counts on me to know who people are. And when I can't tell him who anybody is, then I know I'm too old.
Yeah.
I quit. But anyway, the Henry Potter.
Yeah, I like never watch like I never watch award shows.
No,
Like I just
it's
hear
no
about them
point.
later
Yeah,
and then form strong opinions about them and rage on the internet. No,
absolutely.
I don't know. I like it's like
As a good
outrage and
evangelical should.
then people counter with outrage against the
Mhm.
outrage. And it's like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like I got enough drama. I don't need that drama.
Most part, I'm just like, nobody made you watch it. You can change the channel.
In the
But
end.
I interrupted you, so I
No, it's
don't
all
even
good.
remember what we were talking about.
We got way off
The
track,
dream
but
reality thing.
yeah. Well, I'm thinking like what I suspect has happened with that individual is
Mm,
that they've really become conditioned to do whatever causes applause.
yeah.
And I think that's when we get straight up silly. Is like, well, I'm just going to say whatever gives me applause. And
Mm,
you get huge and you make a lot of money off of it. But it's like you're just not saying anything that's
yeah.
interesting anymore. And I'm like, I don't know. I want to follow my curiosity
Yeah.
and see where that goes. And like people can accuse me of like, oh, you just want to be part of this group. I'm like, I'm not even sure what part of like what group I'm a part of.
Yeah. I've never wanted to join a group in my life, but okay. Like,
I don't know. Like I've never really fit in a group.
okay.
And so I'm like, well, I'm like, I remember being on the worship team and I'm like, okay, I'm like a weirdo. It's kind of cool that they're letting me play bass here, but I just still don't feel like I belong here.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
I don't feel fully functional in what I'm doing. Like I think that's been what's been really fun about creating,
yeah.
right? And like writing and recording music is like I'm like, okay, now I feel like I can say what I want in my lyrics, which is fun. Um
Yeah.
I like doing the different harmonies and stuff like that. Like it's fun to do like to layer all the different
Oh,
vocals
that's
and
got to
stuff
be
like that.
cool.
Yeah, it's fun. But yeah, I don't know. I got a lot to say. So that's why I'm podcasting and
Yeah.
making music. And if people listen, that's really cool. And if they don't, I'm gonna keep doing it anyways.
At least it gets it out of your system.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't really want to be um influenced by the way people applaud. So
Mm.
I'm glad that virtually no one's applauding.
Someday I'm going to be like, how many listens do we have? And you'll be like, we can count them on one hand. But
Oh, it's
I need
more
to
than
know someday.
that.
Oh, okay. It's two whole hands.
Yeah. But thank you for
Yes.
listening, listener.
Thank you to our fan.
This was fun. Let's do
This is
this like
good.
in a month again.
Yeah. Do it again.
Have a good whatever, everyone. Catch
Whatever.
you on the flippity floppity.
Air smudge.